Hello and welcome back to Hold On I'm Talking Brother. My name is Joe Greenwood and you are listening to our review of UFC 299, which was headlined by Sean O'Malley versus Marlon Vera for the bantamweight title, with a co-main event of Dustin Poirier versus Benoit Denis in the lightweight division from Miami, Florida. Oosh. As per usual, I am joined by my regular co-host Tom Ballon. Tom, you were like a dog with a bone wanting to get on here to talk about these fights. Why? Why were you so dogged?
Well, it was one of the cards we've been looking forward to most in recent memory. Right up there with UFC 298. So thank you to the UFC for blessing us. Lots of interesting fights here and some performances that really, really dropped my jaw.
You're talking about Matthias Gamrot?
He must have won you over by now, Joe. Surely that was enough. That was the most Matthias Gamrot of wins over RDA. But before we get to the prelims, Joe, we got the main card, and we start off with Sean O'Malley.
Wow.
Versus Chito Vera.
Yeah.
Now, we both picked O'Malley to win this fight.
Yeah, both picked him by decision. He retains his bantamweight title because he, in fact, put on a bit of a whooping on Marlon Vera. 50-45, 50-45, and 50-44 on Sal D'Amato's scorecard there. I presume that's for round 2. Sean O'Malley retains. He's still the bantamweight champion. And in my mind, Tom, Sean O'Malley's undefeated. Like, to me, he's like... it was just like, oh yeah, he was right all along. I knew he was right. But now he's really right. And to that I say, well done, Sean. But you kind of wasted our time with this.
Oh wow, that's a bum note to end on. You're gonna dump on Sean like that? I mean,
a little.
So for making this fight.
Yeah. He got the Dana White privilege. He got to right the wrong, the Michael Bisping, Dan Henderson thing. But then Michael Bisping had a lot of wrongs leading up after that.
Again, that was even more egregious, though, Joe.
Yeah, of course.
Just, I think Dan Henderson was ranked 12th or something when they made that fight.
I think even higher. I think he was like 13 or 14. Like, it was something ridiculous.
Dark days.
Yeah.
Whereas Vera came in here, what, 9th? Something to that effect?
5th, I believe.
No, 5th. All right. Well, so if you go by the rankings, I don't know. I think
5th isn't that bad.
When I look through somebody's record, yeah, I mean, you've got to give Sean the chance to right the wrong. If it wasn't now, then he'd still have to fight Chito at some point. For me, like, that's a question mark. Like, even if he goes and has a great career after it,
yeah,
it's like, well, it's still that loss, and you want to see him get that back. And he didn't just get it back. Let's be honest. There wasn't much to surprise me about this fight. But actually, the thing that really stuck with me the most is how good Sean O'Malley is.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. The first couple of rounds, I mean, I started in my usual fashion, taking a few notes, things that I liked. And by midway in round 2, I was like, wow, this is just virtuoso stuff.
Yeah.
I mean everything was amazing. The movement, the fluidity, the speed. The
speed was the one for me.
Oh, I just thought everywhere, Joe. I just thought he was the range of techniques, the fundamentals. I just couldn't stop praising him from about midway in round 2. I thought it was a phenomenal performance.
I mean, I think it helps that Chito Vera, whenever O'Malley striked, he didn't strike with him. Like, he very rarely struck with him, and it was a lot of shelling up.
Chito was shook. Like, he was shook.
Oh, you think so? Like, just the speed got to him.
Yeah, I really do. Like, oh damn, because you watch the first fight, and they kind of go leg kick for leg kick really through the first round, and Chito's happy on those terms. We talked about this in the preview. If you trade blow for blow with Chito, then you're probably going to come out losing, and so Chito, he get a good showing in winning that first fight, but here Sean just accelerated away from him very early, and Chito had no answer. Or did he? I mean, was it as simple as that? Could Chito have done more?
I think that Chito is just not good enough. Basically, that's it simply. He didn't actually, because what I thought was going to happen was that I was going to see, like, I thought O'Malley was going to outstrike him throughout the whole fight. Like, that was going to be a given to me. But I just thought, like, Cheeto would throw random stuff out there to come, like, pause O'Malley. I thought that was going to happen, but he just didn't do that. He shelled up a lot, and also, like, a lot of Vera's work comes along the fence. And in that large octagon, like, he had no chance against O'Malley, who was just darting in and out and around. I mean, that was
his movement was so good, Joe. The footwork.
And he was, for 25 minutes as well, he kept that movement up. You know, I don't think he was even at certain points. He wasn't even going like full speed, and he was just like so far ahead of Vera. Like, Vera really does rely on you getting caught up square along the fence, and then finishing you from there. And if you remember that first fight, it was in the Apex. It was in the small cage. Like, there are moments in that first fight where Vera gets him up there, up against the cage, and he's able to start throwing and landing, and that fight feels a lot more competitive, like, when you first watched it, like, even before the ankle issue for O'Malley. Whereas in this one, he had, at no point in any of the rounds did I feel that he was getting anywhere whatsoever. I mean, you know, there was this talk about the last shot of the fight where he threw and he landed to the liver, and it's like, yeah, he threw with him and countered with him, and it was the only time he did it, and it's quite frustrating to see. But I can't really give Cheeto much praise here for his performance. It is mostly on O'Malley just for bamboozling him.
I want to ask about the fourth round. You know, some people clung to those first couple of minutes where Cheeto kind of, he knew he was behind, he knew he needed to go out there and put it on Sean, and he did turn it more into that kind of slightly.
And then O'Malley whooped him for 3 minutes,
and then O'Malley whooped him for 3 minutes, That's
exactly did you give Vera a round?
No.
Okay,
50-45. There wasn't a 10-8 in there for me.
Round 2, the knee. I think
the knee is absolutely hellacious.
Highlight reel.
Any man down. It's just unbelievable. Really unbelievable that Vera could take that. Obviously, O'Malley said after the fight that he felt something break, and obviously the sound implied that. I think that. He said he broke his face. I expect that Vera, his orbital bone, will need serious examining.
Yeah.
The cheekbone below that, his jaw.
The jaw.
I mean, really,
everything.
He ended up looking like someone out of a horror movie by the end of it, Joe. It was brutal.
Yeah, it really was bad, wasn't it? And also, like, it was like, you know, we've seen Vera lose before, but like, he looked defeated as well. He looked truly defeated, and it was like, man, I'm just not on this level whatsoever.
I mean, he went down like with a whimper against Sandhagen, but he certainly wasn't, you know, completely humbled. He was beaten.
Joe. He was
beaten. But this was something different. This was something different. Like, you know, like, you had to call this off on mercy grounds. If there was a sixth round to come, then just there comes a point where enough is enough. Whereas, you know, Corey versus Vera was more like aggressive sparring.
Yeah. Like, one guy clearly better than the other, and just doing enough to put that guy in his place, basically. Whereas with this, like, O'Malley, he was like breaking out like skills that Vera probably hadn't even thought of. Like his lead hand, like the feinting with the lead hand, how he kept like grabbing at Vera and then like changing levels with the lead hand. Like, he threw like, this is when he was like in Southpaw, he threw like a right lead hand to the body, and then he threw like a shovel hook to the body after that. Like, he like threw double shots to the body constantly. Like, that was really lovely. And just like how he feinted and controlled him just through the feinting, it was like, it was like Vera thought like they were going to be in like you go I go sort of fight, and O'Malley was just never going to exchange on those terms. It was just also odd as well that like Vera has like this shell where he throws the shell up around his head, and he threw like, you can use that as like a form for countering, but you have to counter like immediately off the shell.
Yeah, well, you got to be fast.
You got to be on it. Yeah, and like you don't even have to be like fast. You could be like weird with it as well. You could throw weird stuff from there to like catch the guy off and create weird exchanges that, you know, maybe then you can start to get into a rhythm. But he didn't do that. He shelled, stepped. Oh, I don't get to throw now? Oh, okay. Like, it was like that the whole fight.
But at the same time, like on every blitz, every time Vera tried to pick up that pace, O'Malley just danced off to the side and kept dapping him up. You know, it was so good. It was so good. I mean, it started off obviously with an exchange of low kicks. And Sean just kind of upped the tempo and the range of techniques from there. As I say, by the second round, I was like, oh my God, look at this hook to the body. And I was like, oh, look at the 1-2 there. Oh, look at that stiff jab. Oh, that's a beautiful straight. Oh my God, look at that knee. Yeah. You know, then I was looking at the kicks to the body, and then I was looking at, he was really just fantastic everywhere. And I got to say, Joe, you know, like, he's coming in here. He wasn't favoured by the crowd. All right? No. People are not really feeling his shtick. He's obviously been a bit brittle against Vera before. Yeah. He must have had some fears about that happening again. We see that he does have a recurrent injury, you know, which he ended up suffering from after the fight. You know, he almost had to be carried out. So I really think the guy deserves massive credit. And I don't think you can dump on Vera to that extent. I really think it's got to be praise for O'Malley that is the main summary that comes from this fight.
Yeah, I mean, O'Malley was just levels above. It was levels above. And I think even if Cheeto fought his best game plan, he would not have gotten close.
No. Like, I mean, I just... Like, you mentioned that Sean was great for 25 minutes, and of course he was. But of course, anybody fatigues, apart from Merab Dvalishvili, right? Any other fighter in the UFC, they fatigue. They get a little bit less sharp, a little bit less crisp, a little bit more laboursome with their movements. Even if it's only 5%. That did happen to Sean. And the more it looked like it could be scrappy and a dogfight, like obviously Sean can get caught. He's human, and in that sense, you know, like it's so much to ask of Vera when you've taken that kind of damage. You know you're going to get hurt so badly coming in. You're going to get exposed and embarrassed. You might even get knocked out in front of the bloody president of your country. You know, and that's kind of what he needed to do to make it that kind of fight and still ultimately fall up short. I just don't think he had any cards to play, ultimately. Yeah.
Another thing I want to praise O'Malley for, just quickly, is, you know that whole, like, Nick Diaz thing that people go on about, how, like, he sort of, like, touches you, like, 50, 60%, and then he hits, like, you know, an 80% or a 90% shot. Like, O'Malley is, like, the real modern version of that. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, where it's coming from all angles. It's not just the hands. You know, he even threw knees to set up the big knee in the second, where he, like, threw it at, like, 50%, just almost to, like, find the range of it, and then threw, like, a sort of right hand off of that to then break and then create his space again, so that when he did throw it, he could, like, land it at 100% or some approximation of that. I just think O'Malley, he just feels so modern, like in his striking, like he feels so far ahead, and I think that this was a great showcase of that, but I don't think it was a great challenge of it. Like, that's why I think the Merab fight will be a great challenge of that, you know, to see if, like, can he get past the pressure wrestler style with this type of striking? Because in theory, like, if you told me tall, rangy striker who likes to throw kicks and knees up against a pressure wrestler, I'm like, well, I'm favouring that pressure wrestler all day. Like, he's going to grab a leg at some stage. But the fact it's Merab and the fact it's O'Malley, I'm like, I don't know, maybe not. You know, maybe this could be a interesting dynamic there.
Well, that does bring us on to the matchmaking and what's next for these guys. You know, you've seemed to make your thoughts clear there in talking about Merab. I've got to say, Sean caught me off guard in calling for Topuria. That's just not something I had considered.
Oh, really?
Yeah, really. I don't think you watch somebody do that to Alexander Volkanovski in the weight class above you.
He called out Topuria after the Volkanovski fight. Like, it was like the day of or the morning after, and then people criticised him for, like, ducking Merab, so then he rescinded it and be like, alright, I'll fight Merab, I don't care. And then obviously now he's got his mic time, and he's like, I'm calling out Topuria because that's the fight that I want, and I want to be a double champion.
No, you're right, I do remember that now. I will say Topuria's come on and he said you've got somebody waiting for you. Obviously that Georgian solidarity coming into play, and he's right. And, you know, Sean, he seems to know that Merab is next, and that's my opinion too. I just I thought we should air the discussion of the Poirier fight, but I know, Joe, you want to see some defenses for these new guys.
Both of them.
Build that fight up, of course.
Both of them.
So Merab is next for Sean.
Yeah, like Merab is next for Sean. Then he needs to fight Sandhagen if he beats Merab. Poirier, he needs to face Ortega next, and then he needs to face like Max or Volk. Do you know what I mean? Like he needs. Do you know they need like let's get some notches going. Let's get some rhythm going in these titles, because like I understand their thinking, which is like, okay, how long have I got
money.
in my career? Yeah, money, of course. Yeah, which is not fruitful.
Stardom.
In the UFC. Yeah,
cars, beautiful women.
I understand it. Like I understand why they're doing it, but that's not my problem. My problem is, what do I have to watch? And if you're telling me that I have to watch these two fight, and then Merab and Sandhagen has to happen instead, and you kill off two contenders, like to me that's unacceptable.
Joe, I don't know. You're starting to talk my language there. So you said Corey beats Merab, and I can watch Sean and Poirier, and then Corey versus one of them. But no, I'm with you. Like as true fans of the sport, we want to add some legitimacy to these rankings, to these belts. We want to build some legacies. Go and make some defenses, boys. Little nod to Vera. What's next for him? Does this mean something in the long run?
You can rematch Song Yadong, maybe. I don't know.
I thought we didn't like to fight as losing performances.
I don't mind that sometimes. It depends. Like to me, Vera is like, his ranking should be adjusted quite significantly. Like I'm talking number 8 or 9 now.
Yeah, oh, no doubt, absolutely. And of course you got Cejudo sitting at 6, Song at 7, all these guys coming off of losses. Whereas you got the likes of Umar Nurmagomedov, newly crowned at 10. Jonathan Martinez at 11. Somehow Pedro Munoz until the rankings are revised, he's still sat at 13. So there's time for some, let's refresh this bantamweight division. We've got a few tired names there.
Kyler Phillips maybe versus Marlon Vera.
That is about what I'm thinking, Joe. Really.
Yeah, that could be a good one as well. Like because Phillips kind of put on a performance not similar to O'Malley's, but kind of had similar touchstones in a way in their performance against Munoz. So that let's see if you can do that against Marlon Vera, and let's see if Marlon Vera's learned his lesson. I very much doubt he has.
Good opportunity for Kyler Phillips there then. Yeah. Co-main time, Joe.
Oh yeah, Dustin the Diamond Poirier knocks out Benoit Saint-Denis in round number 2, 2:32 of round 2, with a right hook, and then one of the most accurate ground and pound shots I've ever seen. Like the follow-up to the floor. I mean, that was savage from Poirier. And let me tell you, Tom, I was watching this fight, and I was watching Saint-Denis do this in the first round, and I'm like, God, this guy's an animal. God, he's chasing after him. And then he's like striking with Poirier, and I'm like, oh no, Saint-Denis in trouble. Like he's not landing anything on Poirier here. Like Poirier's like rolling with every shot, and I'm like, Poirier's gonna finish this dude if he keeps fighting like this. And then he kept fighting like this. I'm like, he's gonna get finished. Like he can't fight like this, because Poirier started finding range. You can see Saint-Denis was just like, oh, he caught me a bit. And then the right hook, where, by the way, have you seen the video of the right hook where he lands it and then the blood snot just hangs in the air from where he was? Like it kind of like the body moves but the snot stays still. Wow. Savage from Poirier. It was absolutely superb. Oh, you just sent it to me. Brilliant. I mean, my thoughts are much the same, Joe. I gotta say, first round, obviously, Saint-Denis goes after him, and he's waded forwards, and on those shots that he keeps making, anytime that there's a break between them, anytime he's coming in, Poirier looks so much more comfortable there. And and he was getting clipped. He was getting clipped as he ducked in, and then obviously Poirier relentlessly going to these guillotines and ending up on the mat. Which I'll never stop doing it.
I love it. Is, hilarious. I love it. It would have been desperately frustrating if he emerged on the losing side. Of course, he should stop doing that. But man.
Did you see Poirier say that Gamrot came back after his fight with RDA and he said, like, circle the fence, do not jump guillotine? Okay. And it was hilarious
You got it. Game
when they said Poirier's had 5 submission attempts. I'm like, 5 ghillie jumps. I was just like, God Almighty! It was the most Dustin Poirier performance I've seen in quite a long time.
I mean, I also want to highlight the commentary there as well when I think it's DC going about like, oh, he's so good with that guillotine. It's his most dangerous, sub weapon. And then I think Anik comes in and says, well, currently no wins in the UFC by guillotine. Brilliant. Yeah, I mean, wow, it's amazing this performance show. Everyone's behind it. I gotta say, before the fight, as I'm watching Poirier come out, I'm feeling so guilty. Like, I've done something so bad. I've been a bad boy.
I knew I made the wrong pick.
It's not just that. It's about who are you as a man? Who do you want to be?
Yeah.
And I want to back Dustin Poirier, and I'm very sorry that I didn't. Not because I got it wrong. Although that is one aspect to it, of course, but mainly because the disrespect, and the man's earned that respect. I want Poirier to win that fight. What am I doing picking Benoit Saint-Denis? I don't want him to win that fight. I want Dustin Poirier to win it, and I want him to win it just like that. Yeah. So that was a great moment on this card, and Poirier showed us once again why he is, one of the fan favorites and one of the big names at lightweight. I mean, this is such a big win for me. Yeah. It really is. You've got to look at the narrative coming into this, rather than the kind of Benoit Saint-Denis brand, which is, barely acknowledged outside of the, the fans of the sport.
Yeah.
You've got to give credit all the way to Dustin. I don't know though, Joe, if a title fight is the next step.
That is what's going to happen. That is happening. You did us a favour, Dustin. We love you. You're a brand. You're action. You're an action fighter. Yeah, that'll be Makhachev's next fight, I think.
He's
come through unscathed.
Abdelaziz, he's already come out and said, in June, Makhachev would be open to fighting Poirier, considering there's nobody else available. Completely ignoring UFC 300, which is just around the corner.
Yeah.
So it seems like the wheels are in motion for a Poirier title shot. I don't think he's earned it off of that. I want one more. You don't get kicked in the head by Justin Gaethje, beat rank 12, and then overtake Justin Gaethje again. It doesn't work like that.
Yeah, particularly also if Gaethje beats Holloway.
Yeah,
where it's just
then Gaethje's he's got to be next. But then of course we got another big matchup at UFC 300.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's a weird bottleneck, isn't it? That's happening. It's weird as also these older guys, or this name of a certain generation. I'm talking, Poirier, Gaethje, Eddie Alvarez, Michael Chandler, even Charles Oliveira. These guys haven't been taken out. The only people who have taken them out are each other. They don't get taken out by other guys. When Gaethje fought Fiziev or Poirier fought Saint-Denis, it was okay, we're gonna get some fresh blood up there, and it's just they just couldn't
get past their test.
Couldn't pass the test, and it's but it felt like they were tailor made for it, in a way. I mean, I know that Saint-Denis, he had staph infection. That was clear as day. He had been on the antibiotics. He's now saying, I've had antibiotics all week, blah blah blah. Don't take the fight then.
Well, sorry, Joe. Let me interject. Yeah. Was that clear from the first round to you that he had a staph infection?
It was clear from the picture.
No doubt. But I'm saying that, did that really impinge upon his ability to implement his game?
He said he had one round, that he was just going to go at it for one round, and it's okay, fair enough.
So you're saying that he was so fatigued that he end up getting caught coming in?
No, the technique didn't help. At no point have I thought I thought that Saint-Denis was going to have to go through the ringer to beat Poirier anyway. I didn't think it was going to be some masterclass, whatever. I mean, I know you picked Saint-Denis by knockout, but I'm assuming you thought it'd be round 3 or something. Where, because you're not getting Poirier out of there in one round unless you're Gaethje.
Well,
he did it
there's the question of that fragility. This is the other thing we got to highlight about the chivalry that Poirier showed in taking this fight.
Yeah.
He's coming off getting kicked in the head in front of his family and getting knocked out, which is not something that happens to Dustin Poirier. No. There's a question mark there. Then he's going to go and fight a guy that's put such violence on people in his recent outings. Yeah, so that there was that element to me. Of course, I expected a war. That's what you get when you watch Dustin Poirier. You're guaranteed it. I mean, you guaranteed it. I mean, let me just run through some of his recent displays. Justin Gaethje, Michael Chandler, Charles Oliveira, the 2 Conor fights, Dan Hooker.
Yeah.
I mean, that's blood and guts and violence. Then Habib, Max Holloway, Eddie Alvarez, Justin Gaethje, Anthony Pettis. I mean, oh my God, what a resume.
There was no easy fights in there, was there?
No.
Like, there was no easy ones. I mean, the Pettis one was like, that was his declaration of like, I'm a top guy, which he took with both hands. But can we go to the rankings? Because it's like, I feel like even within the 6 to 10 rankings, like there's no one there that I'm thinking
needs elevated.
Yeah.
I mean, Joe, you've done it again.
What?
You've done it again. Mateusz Gamrot. He's right there, baby.
Bro.
Rank 6, coming off a big win against a legend.
Do you want to talk about that fight now, or should we save it? No, okay, or ever.
I think we'll spare the listeners.
God almighty, he stinks. I hate him. Gets dropped by RDA and then like just like humps his leg for 13 minutes. I'm like, yeah, Gordon Bennett. Yeah. I don't hate him. I thought
for a moment I thought RDA might snuff his flame out for good and do you the favour. Yeah.
Oh please. No, yeah, that was poor. But yeah, what are we going to do with Poirier other than like? Because actually, now that I think about it, what else could he do this year other than a title shot? Like Beneil, but then Beneil's coming off a loss.
Yeah, Beneil's not there, is he?
No.
Beneil's not there. Gaethje, or I mean, we're looking at the winners here. If Gaethje wins, is he next? I mean, should he be in a just world? Should he? For Makhachev, yeah. Or should it be Sarukian or Oliveira? It should be Sarukian or Oliveira, shouldn't it? And then Gaethje has to wait.
Yeah, I would say in a fair, just world, the winner of Sarukian Oliveira. But if that's a weird fight, then I would say Gaethje, and then I would say Poirier. So to me, Poirier's 4th in this. Where's Fiziev? Where's Fiziev, by the way? Has he got a fight booked or anything?
I'm not having Fiziev fighting Poirier for this.
No. No, what I'm saying is like guys that they could try and like get a couple wins to build up some momentum. Because like I feel like lightweight it's kind of got a similar issue to featherweight in that there's a real like kind of blockage at the top, and then a bunch of guys who don't feel like they're on the level. Like, you know, Jalen Turner, I don't think he's of the level really, is he?
No, I'm not having him. No.
Who's that guy who? I was about to say, who was the guy who clapped Grant Dawson? It was Bobby Green. It's like, no, he ain't going to get anywhere.
Who's this young up and comer?
I was sort of like,
who's
did
this
he get
new
clapped
name
by someone good? And I'm like, no, he didn't. No, he didn't at all. Yeah, it's a weird spot, isn't it? It needs a bit of a refresh.
Poirier doesn't need to rush into anything. He's there.
No.
He's proved it again. Take some time out. Sell your hot sauce and just
Yes,
wait.
man. Yes, man.
You know, and you've earned it. We don't begrudge him that.
What's next for Saint Denis?
Get back down those and get back in the trenches, lad. You know.
Yeah, get back to committing war crimes in Africa. Yeah, get back to. Sorry.
Well, I mean, like Dan Hooker.
Oh, don't. Oh,
I can't help it. But it is that
savage.
type of opponent, isn't it? It's. I mean, it would be generous to give him Fiziev off or something like that, but that's obviously a great fight. Very intriguing.
Hooker, Saint Denis, main event, Fight Night Paris.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Sounds amazing.
Yeah, that sounds great. Dan, you up to much? No, you don't want to see your family? Yeah, come on, fly it to France. Yeah, cheers. Yeah, you don't have to train. Yeah, perfect. What was next? Oh, well, this you are buzzing to talk about. Michael Venom Page debuts in the UFC and defeats Kevin Holland by unanimous decision. Was it 29-28 on the scorecards?
On the scorecards, it was, yeah.
Yeah, 30-27 in my mind. I didn't see
it. It really was. Jeff, thank you.
Yeah.
I was geared up to fight you here. And you made it very easy. Like,
Yeah.
like I turned to my partner and I said, Am I mad? I'm giving that to MVP. I know he got ground and pounded. I know he spent a lot of the second round, you know, with Holland on top of him getting something off. But like, well, let's save it. I'm getting ahead of myself. It was a 37-27 for me, but my God, Joe, I've got to give you some context here. I've not watched Michael Venom Page outside of the highlights.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
And the highlights, like I've seen other highlights like that.
We've seen highlights.
Yeah.
You go on Rebecca Hitman's Twitter and you're like, what's this? And it's two lads in knights outfits beating the crap out of each other, and then one hits a...
it's just that as well, they say that about footballers, you can make a compilation for almost anybody. Adel Taarabt, looks like the best player in the world if you watch his highlight reel in those QPR days. So Michael Venom Page wasn't giving him that much credence. We talk about this step up in competition. We talk about Kevin Holland, who is, he's a legit ranked guy, and has got great striking. He's put people down.
Yeah. Yeah,
by UFC standards,
weird, funky striker at times, but his
hard to handle.
Yeah. He's got an ability to do like incredible stuff, but I feel like he has a complete inability to sort of like link them together at times, and has a great skill in like crapping the bed, basically.
Well, okay, sure. But like, I gotta put the focus back on Venom Page here.
Sorry,
because I'm just trying to give you that context that I just don't know what I'm gonna get, and I kind of liked his energy this week, so I was interested to see what I was gonna see. I thought we'd have an awkward, weird, pointy fight. Yeah, and I saw something I've never seen before in the UFC, and I've seen a lot of stuff.
Yeah,
I think I've seen everything really until Saturday night, and my God, Kevin Holland at times in this fight is questioning his whole career. He's questioning. He doesn't know where he's safe. He doesn't know where to stand. He doesn't know what striking range is. He doesn't know what like speed is. He doesn't know what technique is. He's just like completely lost because he's getting clapped from halfway across the cage, and when he tries to strike back, Venom Page is back on the other side of the cage again. Like, it was that extreme to me. Like, Holland was totally lost. And, basically, Venom Page reinvented the sport for me on Saturday night. I know that's
Jesus.
That's hyperbole.
All right, well, let's pump the brakes there, because I have actually watched Michael Venom Page, and I've seen him have these performances before where you're like, God, this guy's so slick and whatever else. And then he fights someone decent, and you're like, he's maybe not that good. Or he gets like, awkward matchups. Or he does, like, I've seen him have weird performances before. But he clearly felt the moment and was just like, well, I'm stepping up now. I'm coming out here. I'm declaring myself. I mean, first off, with the entrance, which I thought was superb, with the Undertaker music and then going into his actual music, dancing down to the cage. He felt like a big deal, and they presented him as such. And it annoys me when Dana's like, no, I don't want any more of that. And I'm like, what? You're gonna by the way, you're gonna take multiple points out of the broadcast to show us Trump, and Trump having an entrance. Trump getting an entrance is ridiculous.
Joe, he got the biggest pop of the night. That's what's more ridiculous.
That's bleak, isn't it? Yeah. Anyway, going back to MVP. I was impressed. Like, he stepped up. He was like, okay, he's gonna put on a bit of a school in here. Holland was like completely lost. MVP said something interesting afterwards, where it's like, this guy's like used to like fighting, whereas like I'm used to winning. Basically, like that's the thing. Like, he'll go out there to fight, but it's like, I'm going out there to win. So that was the difference there. And it's like, Holland's like, is the thing that you were like most impressed by was the fact that Holland just looked like he did not want to be in there past the second round.
Yeah, and that's he really didn't. And even when he landed the takedown and he got the fight on terms that seemed to favour him, as soon as MVP got back to his feet, which he did. Now Holland allowed that. A better wrestler would not. It wasn't some like incredible technique that MVP showed to get up. Holland just kind of let him up,
go.
Basically.
Yeah.
As soon as they went back to striking range again, Holland was just like, what is happening right now? Get me out of here. It's like Holland had that dream where you're at school and you got no pants on, Joe. And he lived it. He lived it on Saturday night. Look, when I say like reinvented the game. I know that that's hyperbole, right? I know that's an extreme statement, but I want to qualify it. Okay, it's not that I think MVP is just about to blow Leon Edwards away and run away with the belt for many years. I don't think that at all. I think Leon Edwards would beat him comfortably. It's not that. It's the man he did it to, Kevin Holland. This is what he does to other people. Yeah. This is what he does to seasoned pros.
Yeah,
he knocked out Jacare Souza off his back.
Yeah, I mean, I've never seen Holland give up like that. Like, I've seen Holland do weird stuff. Like, you know, what you're talking about, the Brunson fight, or the Vittori fight, where he starts, like, chatting the whole time. And,
because
like,
he got wrestled to death.
Yeah, because he's goofing.
He can't fight him. He can't fight in that world. So this is nothing like that, Joe. Like, the fight was on the terms that he likes to engage in. He had the superior wrestling. He had no worries about being taken down. And he got absolutely taken to school. I mean, the techniques that MVP was hitting him with were just outrageous. Like, outrageous. The speed he closed the distance. It was amazing for me. Electrifying.
Do you know what was the? I think the thing that really broke him was like all the trips. Like when he kept like tripping him up onto his ass, and then like he started like goofing on him with like a dance above him. Like, can you imagine what that feels? Yeah, it was embarrassing.
Oh my God!
The amount of like spin elbows he was landing as well.
Yeah, 3 huge ones.
Yeah, and it's like you grab him by the waist, and you're like, and then he's so slippery, and then he slips around and cracks you in the face with an elbow. And it's like, you know, you either let go to defend that, or you hold on to it and you get elbowed in the face. Like, MVP gave him, like, it's not like MVP was breaking out a lot of stuff. Like, he did, like, 4 things. But it's just, like, he couldn't time it. Because the problem with MVP is that you have to time the blitzes if you're going to beat him. You have to get the timing on the blitz. And that's when you throw the calf kicks. You can't just throw a calf kick when he's out at range, because he'll block it, because he's so far away and he's so quick. But when he comes in, that's when you'll basically have to just fight as a counter fighter. And Holland couldn't really do that. He couldn't get the read on the timing. He looked like a fool out there at points. Like,
that's what Holland does. I just want to emphasize, this is what he's good at. The things that you're saying he couldn't do, those are Holland's strengths for me. I just think about him, you know, putting down Joaquin Buckley, for example, right. Who has to blitz to come in, you know, and yeah. The other thing, I've said it a few times, and I want to get back to it one more time. Like, striking range. Like, this fight broke the rules for what is striking range. Holland was literally kind of cautiously treading around, like, am I safe here? Like, this feels like I'm a long way away. I can't land my strikes, and I'm the tallest guy in my division with the longest range, 80-inch reach, and I'm out of range here for myself, but I keep getting cracked. Like, where do I go? What's happening to me?
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, I don't know
next,
how.
Jim?
I don't know how. Well, yeah. Like, at welterweight, I don't want to see MVP versus a wrestler. And I think the UFC have firmly acknowledged that he will not be facing a wrestler anytime soon. No Shavkat Rakhmonov or Gilbert Burns or whoever in his future. I don't know. Like, who's available?
Well, there's
Wonder
one name
Boy
that keeps cropping up. Yeah,
I don't want that.
That's the one that keeps coming up.
That's going to be a stinker. That would be a stinker of a fight. And MVP even said, like, I like the guy, I don't want to fight him, and it would be a boring fight.
Oh, he said it would be a boring fight?
He said that would be a boring fight. So, like, okay, that's fair acknowledgement. So, you know, I think even Wonder Boy said something similar, like, a few months ago, where he's just like, I don't think that would be as exciting as you think it would be.
Can I throw a name at you?
Because they've both done karate, so they know how boring it is.
Yeah. Can I throw one name at you?
Hold on, let me guess. Ian Gary?
Ian Gary. Ooh.
Book it.
I love it. I love it.
Ian Gary, number 1 contenders fight. Boom.
Wow, yeah.
Or
I'm down.
Is there a part of you that would like to see MVP versus Bilal? Just to see Bilal just completely bamboozled by it?
God, what do you do with a problem like Bilal? I thought Bilal versus Shavkat was the obvious matchup.
Yeah, it kind of is. Yeah, unless they do... I don't know. Yeah, MVP versus Gary could be a good one. Because then it's like... kind of has to fight for a title then if he's not going to fight a wrestler.
There's a lot of writs to that, you know. That's a fun fight. It's a fun build.
I mean, MVP would eat him up on the mic. Like, it wouldn't be close, like, in terms of the trash talk. Like,
Mm-hmm.
MVP is a slick trash talker as well.
Mm-hmm.
He's a lot cooler than Ian Gary as well, so you'll have the fans on his side as well. And I actually do think Gary might be flummoxed by him as well. Like, Gary's whole skirting on the outside thing would not work against MVP.
I think it's a really intriguing matchup. They're both on, now in a hot streak in a good place. We don't have long with MVP, clearly. So, yeah, let's make the most of it.
MVP versus Jeff Neal? Would you be up for that? Or do you think that's a mismatch?
It's not got the same
again?
pop, Yeah, like Gary's, he's dealt with Jeff Neal.
Yeah.
Of course, it would be fun if you offer me that, or you talk about MVP versus Bilal. I'd rather, or MVP versus Colby, or something like that. I'd much rather see MVP versus Neal than those. But
yeah.
Gary screams out to me.
Yeah, that's a good shout. Also, it feels like there's a different class of fighter now that you get in the UFC. Like, you get your crowd fighters, which is MVP, and then you get your apex junk. Do you know what I mean? Like Kennedy.
Yeah, like Michael Chandler's not fighting in the Apex, is it?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
And Michael Chandler is, for me, he's the poster boy of a successful post-Bellator career in the UFC, despite the fact he loses to everyone, Yeah,
who
you
cares?
don't need to, yeah, I want to watch the next Chandler fight.
Yeah, because we've seen him knock people out. We've seen him win and beat Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker's still around.
We've seen him take Poirier to the wire. We've seen him explosive performance against Gaethje.
And the Ferguson one that we don't really want to talk about.
We don't talk about.
Anyway, we're waffling on now. Let's get to this fight. The deciding fight in our decisions game, which you are upset about. I think there's going to be a bit of an argument here.
Yeah,
Jack Della Maddalena knocks out...
I'm ready, Joe.
Knocks out Gilbert Dorino Burns with a knee to ground and pound. There. Now, Tom, here is the question. What was the score going into the third round?
It was a round each.
Oh, okay. Right, okay.
Yeah.
Because two of the judges had Burns up.
Won the first round.
Two of the judges had Burns up 2.
Nah.
Which is insane.
Didn't get enough off in the first to justify that. Like when he had his moment. No.
Yeah. I rewatched it and I was like, I could maybe squint and see Jack Della up 2, but that would be pushing it, I think.
Shall we comment on the rounds and
sure,
the fight
yeah,
like that because it was it was a very close fight despite the way it finished. I don't know if we're gonna have to fight about that, Joe, but it was an extremely close fight.
Yeah, I've got some issues with that statement.
All right. Let's get to it then. Round 1. All right, what stood out to you in that round? My first comment, my first jot in the notepad. You're not going to like this, but the most notable thing for me, the first thing that I saw that I took note of, the very first takedown that Burns goes for, he ends up taking Della Maddalena's back.
Yeah.
The first one.
Yeah, but he didn't get anything. Like, this is the thing, like, Burns is like the best jiu-jitsu grappler in welterweight division. And actually, there was a thing that I wanted to bring up that in the preview that I forgot to. Remember when Burns fought Maia? And Maia got onto Burns' back, and Burns was desperate to get away from him. And it made me think when I was rewatching that in the lead up to this fight, I'm like, God, Damian Maia was just a different level of grappler to the point where Burns wanted nothing to do with him. Like, it was that level of good. Anyway, Burns is the best grappler, and he didn't really get close to a submission. He got one that was close. But I felt like Jack Della was not that close to being submitted in that first round, and he was like in some weird awkward positions for sure, but because of those weird awkward positions he was able to get out, and when he was able to get out he got out quite comfortably. I felt like his use of like Z-guard I thought was like really interesting, and how he broke Burns' grip.
Can you talk us through the Z-guard?
Okay, alright, hold on, I have to like visualize this in my head now. So you need to have your shoulder pressed. This is going to be terrible audio for me to describe the Z-guard to someone, to how Jack Della got him off. You know what, actually, I'm not going to describe it. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to put a picture link down in the description that the listeners can click on.
Love it.
so that they can then see how he got out from there. That's what I'll do.
But it's a fair summary to you that you thought that Jack Della Maddalena came through that first round having passed the test.
Yeah, I thought so. And then I thought his combination punching was the most damage. Because, again, we have to keep scoring these things on damage.
Della Maddalena won the round, and I agree. He outstruck Burns. But I couldn't help but look at that first round and think Burns wins this easily with a few changes.
But he didn't.
No, he didn't. I'm just trying to, build a bit of narrative here so we can really look at what actually happens in this fight. Like, Burns lost that first round. Della Maddalena didn't win it. Della Maddalena was better where we expected him to be better, and of course Burns was better where we expected him to be better. But Burns, which was very apparent to me, he was too happy to oblige him in striking.
Okay.
And like his takedowns through the fight, we're going to move on to the second round now. Which obviously was much more successful for Burns. But in general, they got increasingly desperate, and Della Maddalena got more of a read on them, and Burns was really, really overextending himself to get into these positions to maintain top control, etc., etc., etc. And I think was unnecessary. I think he could have just started out like he ended up fighting the fight, and he would have comfortably won that first round. The second round, Joe, what was of note to you there?
I thought it was very similar to the first, the main difference being the elbow that Burns landed, and that's why I gave him that second round. Yeah, he landed this huge elbow, cracked Della Maddalena, and when I first saw it, I'm like, God, he landed that elbow, and Maddalena caught him with a right hand at the same time, but on the replay, you're like, no, the elbow got there first quite clearly, and the right hand was nowhere near afterwards. So yeah, that's why I gave Burns that round. Like, it's not necessarily just that one strike, but it's the exclamation point on why I would have given that round to Burns.
Yeah. So something that stood out to me, like when they're exchanging in striking range. Well, again, my first note of the round, I'll just say, the very first single leg that Burns grabs a hold of, he scores a takedown.
Do you think that that's partly due though to like Maddalena thinking like, well, I can get up. Like, I'm not too worried. Do you not think so? Because I think that he was a lot closer than I thought he was going to be. Like, I thought that like he was closer in range than I thought, and I thought maybe he thought like, I'll just get up. And I know he's been training with like Craig Jones as well, with the get ups. So maybe there was that confidence there. I
mean, credit to him if there was, as you say. Burns is the biggest jiu-jitsu grappling threat in the division right now. So credit to him. Foolish, perhaps, but maybe you want to make a statement. Obviously, you had said that Burns is completely washed, and you referenced the Masvidal fight. There's no question that Burns is he's coming down the hill.
Yeah, I regret saying that, though, about Burns. I don't think he's completely washed. I still think he's got stuff to offer. I just think that, like, I felt like he was buggered going into that Masvidal fight, but Masvidal was much worse than him, so it covered for a lot of that. And then he was injured going to the Bilal fight. He injured himself further in the Bilal fight, and it's like, it just wasn't a good look. I felt like Burns had a good performance here, but he's definitely on the downslope, and I think that this was actually the right matchup to make because we need to clear him out of that top 5. We do, man. I'm sorry. I love Gilbert. He's a great fighter. He's immensely entertaining and exciting.
He's a great character.
Had a great run to the title fight. Interesting character, as you say. A super emotional dude. So I always like respect that in a fighter who's just like that open about his sort of what he's going through and his feelings going into a fight. But it's time to move away, Gilbert. And there's no shame in that.
Okay. It's just one of these things, what could have been. If he doesn't get that injury against Bilal, if he fights a little bit more smartly here, he wins both of these fights. But, anyway.
Do you think it would have been Burns?
I think he'd beat Bilal.
You think he would beat Bilal if he was like this version of Burns?
No, because he's getting increasingly oaken in his movement. He's a Brazilian hardwood, and that's what I hated watching. I mean, he looked absolutely dreadful on the feet. However, because he was so one-dimensional in eventually, going for these single legs and knowing he needed takedowns, he did use that in feinting, for some signature and landing big overhand rights, his big signature shot, which I enjoyed. But, he's such a stripped-back, limited version of Burns. Anyway, he won the second round, and, of course, it ended how it ended in the third. Burns could have won it, though. Like, he just slipped out, Della Maddalena, because Burns was desperate to keep him pinned to the mat. It's for the good of the sport, perhaps, that Della Maddalena got out and of course knocked him out. But
yeah, I felt like, by the way, he took about 6 shots too many.
Yeah,
like that was a bad stoppage for me. I'm watching it now. There's an elbow where it slips through and it cracks him right on the face, where he could have kept going. And I'm counting here. I think that's another 14, 15 shots he took. That it's like, man, not good. The knee was super cool though. Like, the thing is, though, he got up from the takedown and immediately went back for a takedown. It was just not a good idea at all. It was kind of like Brunson Adesanya, if you remember that. It was a bit like that. And it's like, oh,
you're doing my man dirty here, Joe. He got knocked out, and then you're going to put that kind of stink on him. There's nothing quite like Brunson Adesanya. That was hilarious.
No, absolutely not. Opening the main card then. He's back again. Piotr's back. Tell a friend. Petr Yan is back. Whoa. A wooga. What a performance from Yan. Particularly rounds 2 and 3. With apparently a very badly damaged leg that Volkanovski picked up on. I don't know if you've seen the video of this. Volkanovski's watching the fight. There's a video of him watching it. And it's in the first round. He's like, Jan's injured his leg. Like, in the first round. And then he proceeded to win the second and third. Very comfortably, by the way, I will say. And yeah, it's true. Like Jan said to him, like, yeah, good eye, good spot. So, Volk, there is a future for you outside of fighting, which is noticing injuries of fighters. Anyway.
Sorry, Rogan, you're out of a job.
Yeah. He's definitely shattered his arm. It's definitely about to fall off. What was up with your arm? Oh, nothing. It was fine. Yeah. Oh, okay. Anyway, what am I talking about? Yeah, Petr Yan, superb performance. And moderately frustrated with Song Yadong as well, I felt like, in this one. I don't know what your initial reactions to this fight was.
That Song can win this fight, and that Petr is carrying serious trauma from the Merab fight were the two standouts to me.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, Joe, I assume you gave the first round to Song Yadong?
Yep.
Yeah. I was sat there like, oh my god, this is just a man. Like, where's his aura gone? Like, this is just some Russian fella,
Yeah.
This is not like the beast from Siberia that once looked like he would reign over the division. And man, they highlighted him in the commentary booth, and I went with them on this. Like, he was really biting on those feints. Any time that Song Yadong ducked down for a single leg, Petr's whole, he was reliving some deeply disturbing moments that he experienced in his last outing. I think he's damaged by that. I don't think he'll be the same, actually. I'll go that far. So all the more credit to him for stepping it up in round 2 and 3. I mean, what were the key changes that Petr Yan made to win this fight? And then, of course, what was it about Song Yadong that you found so frustrating?
Well, for me, I'll start with Yan. I mean, obviously the wrestling was like absolutely superb. Like when he started breaking that out, it was like, I don't know how it was. Like it was basically, okay. What Yan did that was so good, I should say, that frustrated me with Song was that every time he jabbed Song, like his rhythm just fell off a cliff, like he couldn't get back into his own just off of the jab. And then when Yan picked up on that and he started to break in the wrestling as well, like it was like he basically froze Song Yadong. Like Yadong kept fighting in a way that Kevin Holland didn't. Like he kept trying to get something going but he just couldn't. And I was absolutely like shocked that like the jab flummoxed him that much. To the point where I'm like, you should change teams, man. Like you've got to work on like, this guy is like such a good athlete and he's got like really good fundamentals that it's like, how is he just like not murking fools? Like this guy is like, he's built like a brick shithouse and he's clearly got power. He's clearly very coachable, and yet a jab threw him off. I will give credit though on Yan though for that. of the read of this guy can't get past my jab. He's completely flummoxed by that. And then the takedown, the chained takedown where he jabbed, double jabbed, and then he threw to the body, but only really to sort of like get a grip of him. Went for the takedown, like this sort of tip over takedown, where the high-low, where you go for like the knee tap. Turned the corner, and then sprung on top of him and grapevine the legs from Yan. It was absolutely incredible. The flow state that Yan was able to get in, that prevented Yadong from fighting, basically, like, or to get any rhythm going, was seriously impressive. But yeah, the active jab of Yan was like such a huge positive for me. And I hope he just keeps going back to that, because I think that he could really, almost feel like he could make a run back to the title, like if he becomes a lot more jab focused.
Well, I don't want to bring it, right in your face, but you did make those comments, either fighter who loses is they're done in the sport.
No. They're done as a contender.
They're done as a contender. Yeah. And you feel that that's the case? Song Yadong is like, his mark is up and we'll never see him again, really, at the top echelon?
I think he's cut off other parts of the division. I'm looking at you, Chris Gutierrez and Ricky Simone. And Jan has cut him off now, because he fought Sandhagen, he lost comprehensively. He fought Jan, he lost comprehensively, okay? Ooh. And when he fought Cheeto, I thought he lost that comprehensively as well, but he got the decision. So, for me, I've got a little bit of a pushback against Song at the moment. So, anyway.
At the moment, if that's the qualifier that we take away, then you're not going to get a big pushback from me. I'd agree. He's been found short at the very top of the division. I don't know if I feel it's comprehensive. I don't think this was a comprehensive defeat. In fact, in the third round, I had them pretty much neck and neck until the last 2 minutes. I certainly felt the Song could win this fight. Now, as the tide continued to come in, Yan got pushed further ahead and ended up winning quite comfortably. At least it felt that way. But there was certainly, as I say, in the final round, the first 3 minutes or so, they are shot for shot. And Song's power was obvious. And as you say, his athleticism. And when he, in the first round, when he took Petr down, he looked absolutely dominant. I thought this was looking like a breakout performance for Song, whilst qualifying that with the fact that, Petr Yan is a shadow of his former self. The man is, he's rocked. So, huge credit to Petr for winning the fight. I don't think we'll never see Song again in the top 10. I think he's very much top 10, and he will be for the next 5 years, at least.
Fair enough.
At least. There are fundamentals to work with there. You mentioned them yourself. Bit of polishing needed. I think he could still be a champion. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Prelims. Joe's £5 bet comes in again. Curtis Razor Blades puts back Jailson Almeida, who looked impressive, I thought, at points against Blades, but then proceeded to, just get hammer fist into oblivion.
Well,
you're telling me that Blades scouted that as well? Is that what you were telling me earlier?
Yeah. So, I mean, first of all, about the Almeida looking impressive. I did actually love that bit of commentary from DC when he's talking about the shock of being picked up as a big man.
Yeah.
And how Curtis Blades is like, what the hell is going on? Like, why are my feet not on the ground anymore? Somebody make this stop.
Yeah.
So that was impressive. I did not expect Jailton to have his way with Blades like that. Now, we've seen people with effective wrestling defense ultimately get melted by Jailton Almeida as time has worn on. I think it was Rosenstruck in the penultimate fight, where like Rosenstruck, when he was athletic and fit, and in the first round he could kind of fend him off, but then he just slowly got trapped in the cement. And I really worried for Blades as the fight went on here, which was a shock because we both picked Blades to win this fight. But Joe, like, you cannot take those shots at heavyweight. Those hammers, you cannot do that. And why Almeida thought he was safe there, I don't know. But what I wanted to talk about with Blades, he's obviously not the best speaker on the mic, but I was able to discern that it was planned for. All right.
Wow.
They noticed that Charlton would think his head was safe there, and he would go low on his shots and kind of cling on. And Blades deliberately leant over him, kind of put his gut on Charlton's head, like kind of bent over him to keep him in place so he could land those hammer fists. And if you watch the slow-mo, that's exactly what happens. Blades sees him, comes in, he kind of hunches over him so that, Charlton's really sat in on that takedown. He's really deep in there. And then Blades uses that range to land those short hammer fists. And Joe, you're not getting hammer fisted by Curtis Blades and getting up like you fight. No. You're not safe there. That's a very dangerous place.
No, that's not a good spot to be in. Fair play to Blades. Gets himself back into sort of contention. Almeida, should he have just stayed at light heavyweight? Because I think he's almost a bit too big for light heavy now. And do you think he could maybe make that move back down? Or I don't know.
No, I think he's heavyweight. And he can win this fight. There's heavyweight is a thin division. So I'm more interested in celebrating Blades right now. Good for him.
You say it's a thin division, but did you see Robles de Spain defeating Josh Parisian in 18 seconds? Get this guy out there every week. He doesn't need to cut weight. Just get him and fight every fat lad they've got. Like, this guy is brilliant. Going back and just like whiffing like these big hands, and just one of them's going to land, and then he drops Parisian with a bit of ground and pound from there. 6'7", or something ridiculous like that. Yep. Taekwondo guy doesn't have to cut weight. Get him in there. Get him out there next week. Yeah, cancel Tybura and get him out there against Tuivasa. I would watch that right now. Like, come on.
Oh, I thought you meant have Despine cancel Tybura's UFC run, end his whole shit. Because
could do. Yeah,
I mean, it was good. It was what we wanted. I was a bit worried. Like I mentioned it to you. It's transparent matchmaking, giving him some slop, sure. like Parisian. However, like, you can get stuck in that slop. That is viscous slop too.
Yeah.
And I thought maybe you'll get trapped in just a dirty, sluggy
that slop
war.
That can humble a man.
It can. You go in, you get stuck in the mud, and you don't come back quite the same. So, I mean, a comedic knockout. High kick, falls over, scrambling backwards, like you said, whiffing those shots, and sat Parisian down, and good night.
Very impressive. Right. What else do we want to chat about here? Is there anything else on the prelims you wanted to bring up?
I wouldn't mind giving a little nod to Michel Pereira. He's sat all the way down in the early prelims. I don't know who he upset, or if he's been booking the same hookers as Dana, or what. I don't know what the deal is. I don't know, because the man is primetime TV for me.
I love him.
This has put him, this win, first round stoppage of Oleksiejczuk, puts him on a 6-fight streak.
Damn. 2 at middleweight, right?
2 at middleweight now, and their commentary team were talking about how big this man is. I mean, it is true, Joe. How on earth did he get down to 170? That is a medical mystery.
Yeah, it's kind of like when Chiesa went up to welterweight, and you're like, oh my god, like, this guy's monstrous for welterweight, never mind lightweight. This guy is ginormous and explosive. Apparently he doesn't even cut that much weight now for middleweight, does he?
I'll add that Oleksiejczuk, of course, is coming down from light heavyweight. You asked me which one of these guys used to be a light heavyweight.
Yeah. I'm hyped for Pereira. Again, get him out there soon. Get him out there against whoever. Like, he's murking these fools. He's got a 6-fight win streak.
7, Joe. I have to issue a correction.
Sorry, 7.
I said 6, but that makes it 7. That's a huge run. Now,
so what do we think?
There are not
Chris
big. Yeah, I mean, can he? How far can he go?
He could go top 10, I reckon.
So we're going to skip the likes of Chris Curtis.
No, you mean like where he can get to in the rankings? I definitely think he can get inside the top 10.
Which is really something, when we first saw him go down to Tristan Connolly back in 2019.
The featherweight Tristan Connolly,
it was a scathing criticism on my part there. I wanted him out of the UFC. Then he goes and gets disqualified by kneeing Diego Sanchez.
Yeah.
But look at me now, Joe.
Look at me now. Incredible.
Yeah, I
love
want to see him. I want to see him in the rankings. I want to see him on the main card. Let's go.
Cool. Last thing we're going to talk about is not related to the UFC, or at least it is tangentially. Did you watch Anthony Joshua, Francis Ngannou?
Yes.
What did you think of that?
What did they do to my beautiful boy?
It was what it should have been. It's what it should have been. It was very impressive from Joshua, but you saw the limitations of Francis Ngannou, the boxer, that night, didn't you? Where it's like
it just all came crashing down, Joe. Reality bites hard.
Yeah. Would you trade those years off your life that Francis has lost by getting that knockout for 20 million? So that's what Francis got.
That's a lot of money, Joe.
That is a lot of money.
Yeah,
I mean, the 7 he got for the Fury fight.
I want Ngannou to get the bag, of course.
Yeah.
His story is unparalleled. I don't know how it could be topped.
No.
And so we have to say, in a sporting sense, flat on your back, medical attention rushing in,
oxygen tank.
Yeah, really, truly, truly brutal knockout for a man who's never been knocked out, as far as we know. Do you know what? Oh, sorry. Go on. No, please, Joe.
Do you know what worried me was an interview I saw with Ngannou from before the fight, but I read it afterwards. That if I'd known this beforehand, I would have been a lot more worried for him. He said that Tyson Fury was the hardest puncher he's ever felt, and if I had seen that, I would have been like, he's in a lot of trouble because Joshua is a monster puncher. And this talk of Ngannou Wilder that there was some talk of, I don't want to see that. I know Wilder's.
Is that still that hasn't been silenced after that?
Well, it has now, but yeah,
I would have been down for it if he just survived
same. Same. But yeah, I think Francis needs to listen. If Francis turned around and said he's retiring, I'm like, good for you, man. You nailed it. I would like to see him win in boxing. I'd rather him return to MMA. I would love it if he could somehow, in some way, the UFC could drop this "we don't do co-promotions" and do Ngannou Aspinall. Jesus, could you imagine if that was the fight that they ended up making? There's nothing in the PFL for him. He's not fighting that 6'8" Brazilian lad who just knocked out Ryan Bader. He's not going to fight that guy. Let's be honest. Yeah, I don't think he's ever going to fight in the PFL now. But I don't know.
It's hard to see. How do you come back from fighting, for that much money in Saudi Arabia against the two of the biggest names in boxing, and then go and fight some no mark on PFL?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it just doesn't. It's ludicrous. And does this in a way affect his branding with PFL? Maybe.
Yeah, I mean, the way he got knocked out,
the leg going stiff. Or folding underneath him,
I will say that clip part of the interview before the fight where Fury's challenging him on something, and then Ngannou reminds him that the rules of boxing are the only thing keeping him alive when they face up. There was a gravity to that. I enjoyed that quite a lot. I beat you, every day of the week, 2 times if I want to, or quite what the line
Twice on Sunday,
and delivered with that accent of his. I love that, and it's true, Joe. I mean, we know that that's true.
Yeah, I mean, he'd leg kick him and that would be it, wouldn't it?
Oh my God, could take me to mum, make it stop.
Yeah.
So yeah, we have to remember that is who Francis Ngannou is, and that's who he will be if he goes back to MMA. I mean, let's look at it this way. We're huge fans of him. All right. Fair enough. But, are you saying he goes back to the PFL and he honours the deal he made with them? He fights whoever their number one contender is.
Yeah.
Does some of the fan base he's won over here in boxing with his greater notoriety, does it follow him to that PFL fight? Do they still want to see that? Is it who is this man really? In his sport?
I mean, maybe. But it's just I work with guys who are boxing fans and they don't like MMA. And whenever I'm like, no, this guy's good, whatever else, and they watch and they're just like, nah, I don't. It just doesn't work for them. Because you have to realise, you watch boxing, obviously, because it's boxing, it's a striking sport, whatever else. And then you go to MMA where the striking's kind of a bit weird and janky. It's not quite kickboxing. It's not quite Muay Thai. You got the wrestling. And as soon as the wrestling starts, they're like, what is this? Like, it's just not... It's not a sport that quite translates. Do you know what I mean? It's like you're either an MMA fan or you're not. Like, it's not like, I'm a boxing fan and I'll give MMA a go. It's like you either enjoy it or you don't. And, for some it's quite a bloody, horrible thing to watch. I mean, we're kind of the rare exception of people who have followed the sport for quite a long period of time. Most people don't follow the sport for that long. It's a 3-year, 4-year thing. And I thought that actually when I was watching 299 was that, like, they kept cutting to the crowd. There's like loads of young people, like really young people. And it's like, they're there for O'Malley. And I'm like, will they stay beyond him? I somewhat doubt it. Not to be that, you won't make it, you kids. You're not going to last like me. I remember Fedor. Like, it's not going to be like that. But I don't know. It's a weird sport. Whereas boxing is more of a lifelong sport, I feel like, for people. Like, once they really get into it. But maybe he can bring some people over. I doubt it, though. I doubt it. I'd like to see him box one more time. I'd like to see him win in boxing. Just because, it would tick something off the list for him. But then, I wanted to see CM Punk win in MMA, but that's not always on the cards for you, is it? Anyway, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. We've gone giving you a bit extra there. Tom has failed to acknowledge this, but I am the champion. And not only did I beat him, it was a whooping, to be honest. Thank you, Jack Della. 6 points to 4. It wasn't that much of a whooping, actually. But
you claim it, Joe. You have your moment.
What do you mean claim it? I won. There's no you can claim it.
It's all right.
But I'm a humble man. I'm a humble man of humble means, and I don't like to rub it in people's faces. But I am the predictions champion, back where the belt belongs after my momentous run last year. Anyway, listeners, thank you so much for joining us. You can contact us, hollandbrother69@gmail.com. Like, subscribe, leave a comment. We will get back to you in those comments. Spread the word far and wide. Tom, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you, Joe.
And listeners, thank you so much for joining us. Enjoy the fights.
Bye, everybody.